It's been a minute since we've done an episode of It's Always the Video Game's Fault, man. It's been a long time. Honestly, I thought that everyone was kind of done with this whole trend of like blaming video games for really stupid things going on. But apparently we're not out of the water yet, folks, because, well, we have a story today. So if you're a little bit newer to the channel and you don't know what I'm talking about, I used to do almost like a mini series here on the channel where, especially when this kind of news was like a little bit more popular, I made videos about these stories basically where, I don't know, it depended on what was going on. Like people would call for a certain video game to be banned, like Prince Harry, or parents would blame video games for their kids not acting properly, things like that. And well, I would kind of just dissect the entire story and actually make sense of it because, well, as most people with a brain know, video games are not the root of all evil, and it really isn't that hard to get people to stop playing video games. At least like 99% of people to stop playing video games because, well, they're not addicted to them and there's not actually a problem behind them. But unfortunately, well, this Kentucky high school does not agree with what I have to say, and does not agree probably with what you have to say either, because they banned Fortnite from being an esport, not in just one Kentucky high school, but in all Kentucky high schools that are under the Athletic Association because of its gun violence portrayal. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure anyone who's ever played Fortnite before can probably agree with me on the fact that, number one, if you think that the game accurately represents gun violence, well then, holy shit, I have some really bad news for you. You're either like 4 years old, or you're just a straight up baby boomer. Like, I don't think there's really in between on that one. I mean, I don't see there being any difference in mentality there. You know, you gotta be a child who's only played Fortnite and has no idea what other video games are in store for him. Games like Doom Eternal is coming up, and I saw some gameplay from that and I was like, okay, there's no way I can put that on YouTube and it stay monetized. It's not possible. And that doesn't even begin to scrape the surface of violent video games, quote unquote. I hate using that term because they're fucking video games, and just saying violent video games in the context that they're supposed to be bad things feels really stupid, weird, and awkward to me. However, Kentucky's High School Athletic Association has placed a ban on Fortnite from being an esport. Oh my god, I'm so stunned that I can barely read. In high schools and colleges after a partnership between Epic and Play vs, a school esports organization was announced last week. Now, I know Fortnite has this stigma where, you know, all the memes and stuff like, you know, Minecraft good, Fortnite bad, all that stuff. I understand, like, I get the joke, right? It's funny, you know? It's funny after 8 months, guys. It's been funny for a long time now, but on a really serious note, I guess, I actually don't play Fortnite. And I don't know if that's supposed to be surprising to people or what here, or if that's supposed to be status quo now. I don't know, but I don't play Fortnite anymore. Okay, I was at one point a pretty big Fortnite fan, but no, not anymore. But I mean, it's definitely one of the bigger games in the world, so to see it partnering with something like this is, I would say it was kind of inevitable, especially due to the interest that it holds in like high schools, middle schools, etc. The only other games I could think that might pull that kind of, I don't even know, like Gravity, I guess, might be something like maybe Call of Duty, but even then, when you look at the numbers, they're not even close. But PlayVS partners with the National Federation of State High School Associations, or the NFHS, including Kentucky's High School Athletic Association, or the KHSAA, should have just said AA, to create varsity esports programs. Unfortunately, the KHSAA has banned Fortnite from being an esport in Kentucky schools due to its portrayal of guns and your ability to shoot one another. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and think about, you know, all the games that could not be esports. So, yeah, you couldn't play Call of Duty, which I know people like to rag on COD, but it's one of the biggest console esports out there. You couldn't play a game like Overwatch, which I actually don't know how is Overwatch League doing. I haven't watched a match of that, probably, it's been a long time, but obviously you can't play fucking Fortnite, okay? No Halos, no Gears of War, and it's all because of your ability to shoot one another because of that violence and the stigma behind it, which, number one, if anyone is getting a bad idea from Fortnite, well, they're not getting a bad idea from Fortnite, there's just something wrong with them. Number two, Fortnite is the most cartoony, innocent, safe, quote-unquote violent video game that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, yeah, in Fortnite, you can kill people and whatnot, like you shoot them with these cartoony guns and stuff. I don't even think there's even blood in the game. There's just like shield effects and things like that, which it's like, whatever, okay. I mean, it tells me, which it's like, oh wow, people getting shot with cartoon guns and things like that. Wow, I mean, who could really take that inside of their innocent, feeble little high school mind? You know, all the things that high schoolers see these days in movies, listen to in music, all that kind of stuff. Who could handle Fortnite, right? I mean, you got games like the newest Call of Duty where in the campaign you're making split-second decisions on whether or not you have to shoot civilians because you don't know whether or not they're actually enemy fighters. You're watching horrible just abuse and acts of war and crimes of war being taken against these civilians in villages. There's blood, there's gore, and all kinds of different stuff going on. Explosions, houses just gone, you know, nuclear bombs going off in the multiplayer, everyone just getting wiped off the map. But no, it's Fortnite, that's the problem, right? That doesn't even make any sense, right? Now, I don't know if I sound like kind of a boomer in this video. I'm almost 20 years old, but I have played quite a few video games in my day, and I've played some pretty violent quote-unquote shit. So if I had to kind of like rank Fortnite on its, you know, portrayal of guns and your ability to shoot one another, I have to say it's pretty much at the bottom of the list. Now, despite the game being rated 12 by the ESRB and featuring cartoon-style visuals on top of refusing to call eliminations kills, the KHSAA refuses to allow it to be an esport as it features guns. And I think if anything, this just kind of shows how goofy high schools have become here in the United States and just shows the general decline. So you got a bunch of, you know, what age does high school start out? Like, I was in high school when I was 14. That was the first time I was in high school, right? When I was a freshman. 2 years above the age rating for this game. And yet they're trying to say that the game is too mature, too violent for them to play as an esport. And of course, some of the people who would be on that team would be, what, 17, 18 years old? They could go out and buy a mature rated video game. In the state of Kentucky, like, they could literally walk into a GameStop and buy literally any video game they want, pretty much. Because, I mean, rated mature, that's for the adults, right? You buy those as an adult. You don't go in there when you're 11 years old and buy a mature rated game unless they're, you know, actually breaking a violation there. But, so you got a bunch of high school kids who, I mean, yeah, they're still in high school and whatnot, they still gotta follow rules, but they're being treated like they're younger than the age of 12, which is weird because everyone who's critical of these violent video games and whatnot, they always point to the ESRB and the ratings and everything and say children shouldn't be playing these games because of the rating. Yet, for some reason, well, let's just get out of the way. They never want to bring up the fact that it's the parents buying the video games for the child. It's not the kid walking into a GameStop and buying it for themselves in 99.9% of situations. But also on top of that, there's situations like this where you have fucking high school age kids being treated like they're 10 years old. And I shouldn't even have to point out the visuals of the game. We're not talking about an advanced war simulator here with tanks rolling down the street that's going to give you PTSD the moment that you touch it. This is not some war simulator. This is not Arma or anything. You know, it's not a milsim or anything. Not even close. This isn't Insurgency. This is Fortnite. Every kid in your school is currently emoting right now because of Fortnite. They're in the hallway talking about flossing to one another and hitting different dances on one another. But it's not able to be played in high schools because it's too violent. But yet children just love this game. And in reality, when you think about all the esports that include some form of violence, I mean, if Kentucky wanted to be, you know, really consistent about how they're going to apply the rules and things like that, there's like 3 esports in the world that they could do. They could do like Cooking Mama, Sim City. That's 2 of them, because pretty much every major esport that I can think of has some form of violence. I mean, yeah, you can, I mean, like Madden, maybe, things like that, but I don't know if those are major esports at this point. I have no idea how esports are really doing at this point. But I mean, even games like League of Legends, right? I mean, just, like, people die. People get magic called down on their head, missiles just come slamming down on their bodies, explosions, get big staffs ran through their face, all kinds of different stuff, right? Game gets pretty insane. It's violent, but there's no guns, so it's okay. What about like CSGO, which is of course one of the most popular esports in the world? I mean, that game is literally just terrorists versus counter-terrorists shooting each other with AWPs and then going into game chat afterwards and bullying each other until the game ends. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what esport can be played at this school? Or I shouldn't say this school, any school in Kentucky. That's what's even more insane about this. If this was more isolated, I'd be like, okay, that's kind of weird, I don't really understand it, but no, this is like the entire entire state, basically, because, I mean, if you think about it, like, what state has a bunch of high schools that just aren't involved in, like, the state athletic association? I mean, any school that's involved in this, so their high school can play sports, basically has to follow this rule if they want to make an esports team. And I don't even know why I even have to bring this up in a video, but I have to, because there's going to be people who watch the video and they refuse to do any fucking research for themselves, and they refuse to try and learn anything new that isn't pseudoscience or wasn't like an obviously fake study that has been completely debunked at this point. But the link between violent video games and violence in real life has been highly contested by scientists for years. Last year, a study by researchers from the University of Texas at Arlington found that there's not enough evidence to support claims that violent video games led to acts of violence. In their study, the researchers examined data from over 15,000 participants. Wasn't like there was 5 fucking people, they had an actual sample size here. Firstly from 1995 when they were teenagers, and then again in 2008 when they were adults. Pretty detailed study, right? They actually have a sample size that's bigger than like 17. Also, it lasts for more than 5 months. Dr. Michael Ward, an author of the study, said that while the data shows that fighting later in life is related to playing video games as an adolescent, most of this is because, relative to females, males play both video games more often and fight more often. Estimates at better established casuality find no effect or a small negative effect. This is my 4th analysis using a 4th methodology and a 4th data set on actual outcomes that finds no violent effects from video games. And this is not the only study that's ever been done on it. The overwhelming majority of studies over time have shown that, guess what? Video games don't cause any fucking violence in the real world. But guess what? An overreaction because of a very innocent and mild video game. So thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter at @SubToOptimus. I post memes, thoughts, and updates over there. It's a surefire way to get notifications of all my newest content. Thank you to my channel members. Your support helps my channel tremendously. Make sure to check out OpTube while you're around. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, banning Fortnite, but not because of gun violence, and signing out.